Hey YouTube, welcome back. Barracuda6 here in the next installment on our reloading series. Today I want to cover the bench. I'm just going to kind of go over how it's set up from the bottom up so you can kind of see for yourself what you want to do with your reloading station. This is all custom built stuff and I don't have any plans online or anything like that, but this is just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do if you want to make it for your purpose-built station. This is a pretty small station. It's built just for the size of the area that I had available. That was both climate controlled and humidity controlled. So we'll start with the bottom up, as most foundations are. The corner pieces here are 4x4. You're real solid. It's not going anywhere. Use construction nails from a nail gun. All the bracing is 2x4s, and I recessed this part in here so before the ammo cans went in I would keep my feet underneath there so I'd be able to get closer to the work surface. So if we can I'll get a side shot here. You see this work surface here is deeper than here, so it's recessed so your shins aren't banging into the bottom if this were flush here. In the bottom I have male Tupperware. Each of the calibers that we reload, that's where our reloads go when they're done. I don't make a ton of 9mm, but when we do classes we tend to load up because the recipe we have for the guns work really well, especially for doing classes. So that's about the only time we do that, or when a politician opens their mouth and ammunition disappears. But 9 is usually a very cheap round to pick up, save your time in reloading. On the shelf above that I have different cans. In each of these are the calibers, so we right above there. So this is your 9mm, 45, 223, and 308. Each of the cans is in a separate stage of processing, and I'll go over the batch processing when I do the actual reloading. What essentially it is, each phase of reloading has brass in it. So this will be the dirty brass you collect from the range, sort out, it goes in there. When that's done, we take it out to the next one, so they'll be clean, then sized and flared and so on. So each step along the way has a separate canister, and I'll go over batch processing in another video. Initially, when we got the single stage reloading press here, came with a short tube, and so I made a little shelf and put in a little collection to collect all the primers. So this way I didn't have to stop and empty the tube. If the tube comes capped, then you'd disconnect that and pour it in a container. So I just made a little shelf with I think this was a milk container from McDonald's, and so one of the kids' Happy Meals or something. Since then, I went to the Farm and Fleet, I think it was, one of the farm supply stores, and just got tubing the exact same diameter, and I just have a collection canister sitting on the floor. And that's, once that fills up, I mean, that's a lot of primers and brass. So this is going away. And that's one of the modifications I did after I made the bench. But 2x4 bracing all the way across, including your cross support pieces on there. So this is pretty stout. It's not going anywhere. This is a particle board, and the one thing I would do different, and I'm going to do here shortly, is all these little nail holes fill in with some brass shavings. If there's any powder spill, it's hard to get that stuff out of there. So what's going to happen is these are getting filled in, and then I'm painting the whole surface white, just so I have a good contrast. So that's on its way. The press itself is bolted in through both the top as well as the support brace on the bottom. It's kind of hard to see, but it's bolted through using the template that was included with the press. I have desktop storage as well as a shelf on top. So for the storage, it is literally built to height. I mean, there's very little wiggle room on there. Again, all 2x4, very thick bracing, just to support some weight. So I have, just hanging off the side is my reloading tray, 2 binders, One is with my reloading data and the log that I have, as well as some armorer's information on there and copies of manuals that were printed off or came with the various devices. 2 reloading books seems to be what we reload the most with. Works very well. I just take the information on here, double check it off the website of the powder manufacturer to make sure that they jive. Bullet storage for the actual heads of the bullets. Again, we don't do too many with the 9, but we do have a couple classes coming up in the springtime here, so we're going to spend most of the winter rocking out a lot of 9mm. Then usually my 45s in here. Again, everything's built for efficiency and use of space. So this is a repurposed, I think it was a milk container from some fast food place. I think it was Subway or something. So if I take the regular cardboard boxes for, say, like the Hornady, this is the 223 ammo. Each of these holds 100, so this is 200 in the same space. Now this is 200 in here. So I fit about 400 bullets in one of these little jugs, and kind of do the same thing for whatever bullet we're using. We have a few more of these for 308 and whatnot, so it's just designed to free up a lot of space, just so the fact that we're not taking up a ton of space, because this is a compact workstation. It kind of forces you to work more diligently, just for the simple fact you can't have a ton of crap spread out all over the place. Behind there is a pen cup holder for pens, pencils, and Sharpie markers, as well as highlighters for marking the reloading pages. I do keep tape, and that's for our labels that go on the cases afterwards. Calculator, very indispensable. And then these are the 2 that we use the most. So we load a lot of 223 and 45, and then we have the factory die cases for the 308 and the 9mm. This is a little parts tray. It's recessed back and tucks out of the way. Has just about everything we're going to need. In here is the complete die sets for the 2 calibers on there. I keep trimmers for cutting down the rifle brass. This is the Lyman tool. I believe it was Lyman. This works very well for cutting and doing case prep, because holding on to the one that came with the Lee press, this is really hard to grasp for a long time for doing a lot of brass. This is much easier. So I keep the originals in there, and then a Lyman, and then I'll go over the machine later on for the next one that we switched up to. Q-tips for cleaning out case necks. Labels we use for, made our own for filling out our load logs. So we have all the data we need, and this mimics the page in our load log book. And each one of those is taped to the outside of the shell case, or the cartridge casing. This is, while I'm working, if I end up with a bad case, I find one, I throw it, I just have this drawer out, and I just throw it right in there. It saves me time, and then I can go back and look at them later. Again, cutters, just like the trimmers for the case prep. Brushes, both the handle and the different sizes for the calibers that we're using. Collets for the bullet puller, and this, I think this is a Hornady one. This is phenomenal. If you get a bad push on one of the bullets to get in there, this is fantastic. The collets in the different calibers. The lead dippers, it's the powder dippers that come with the dies. These are the primer arms that came with the press, so they have small and large. I don't use them other than to guide the primer down into the tray, down into the tube. Staples, that's back when I kept the Target stuff up here. Punches, that's more of the armor tools kind of thing, and then stripper clips. Since we do a ton of 223, we load them on stripper clips and put them in cans from there. I have my digital calipers up here. Not the greatest, but they seem to hold true. Storage for the funnel, which works good with the powder thrower. Then up top is not only the storage shelf, but I have a light mounted to it. So this swivels in all different positions, helps easier to see. This is the powder thrower that came with the Lee set. This is the RCBS case prep. This thing is indispensable, and talk about saving time and your hands. We're going to cover that in another video too. There's a couple videos out there, but how that fits into our batch processing loading, I'll cover that in a little bit here. Spare tubs, just as you're working through stuff, if you need to kind of separate it as you're going. Again, I'll cover this again a bit more in the batch processing video. All the lubes and the sealer for primers, if you're going to long-term storage, stuff like that, or you're going to be taking your ammunition out in inclement weather. So the lube and the sealer. I use this as a spare loading tray, but all of your ammunition cases go in there as you load it up. And here I keep safety glasses and the hand primer that came with the Lee set, the scale, and then my lube pad for the RCBS lube. One thing I would highly recommend is having a backstop here, so that as you put stuff on the shelf, it positively stops and doesn't fall off the backside. Same thing down here. This one's very tall, just because I knew I was going to have small parts like this stacked up. So it's nice to have that to keep things from falling off the back. I'll get a side shot here for the setback. If you can see this. Alright, so you see where this sticks out quite a bit. It's got a little bit of a gap on this side, but it's tight as a drum on that side, so it doesn't cantilever into and flex the top of the workspace when you're using the press. And then you can see where this kind of recesses back. So if those ammo cans weren't there, you'd be able to put your feet right up against it. But again, it's all custom made, purpose built, and it works extremely well. So take a look at your space available, where you're going to have your workstation set up, and see if this is some ideas would go into your reloading station. Thanks for looking. Don't forget to subscribe. God bless, and we'll see you for the next installment.